Over the past few years, the beauty world has shifted from trends to an outright crisis. One where people can change their entire faces in a single afternoon, where teenagers are dissolving and refilling and reshaping before they've even grown into themselves, where 20 somethings are using Botox preventatively, and where millions quietly ask the same question: why am I like this? Why do I feel this way? Every other video online is critiquing the same issues: the tweakment epidemic, the Instagram face, filters and dysmorphia, girls who look identical, people becoming unrecognizable overnight. Everyone can see something is wrong, but almost no one agrees on why, and even fewer can offer a real way out. Before we talk about the present crisis, let's zoom out. Humans have modified their bodies for centuries: Egyptian caul, Chinese foot binding, Victorian corsets, tribal scarification. But what's happening today is different, not because the tools have changed, but because the meaning has. We no longer alter the body for culture, beauty, or belonging. We alter it for visibility, relevance, control, and money. And that's where this crisis truly begins. At first glance, cosmetic procedures look like self-improvement. A tweak here, a lift there, nothing dramatic. But underneath is an unspoken panic: fear of aging, fear of irrelevance, fear of being ordinary, fear of being invisible, fear of losing worth. In a culture where your face is your brand and your body is your CV, appearance has become a kind of personal currency. Everyone is competing in the same invisible marketplace of perfection. That is why so many people are spiraling. We've never been more visible or more insecure. We've never had more beauty tools or more anxiety. Plastic surgery is no longer about enhancing beauty. It has become a way of managing existential fear. And that leads us to the real root. The real problem did not start with Instagram influencers or capitalism. Those made the crisis louder, but not deeper. The true root is this: we placed the self at the center of human life. In modern culture, the self is sacred. Your desires define you, your body expresses you, your image creates your worth, your identity must be curated, perfected, broadcasted. Once the self becomes the center of everything, your appearance becomes your identity, your body becomes your project, your worth becomes something to maintain, your face becomes your social passport, aging becomes failure, imperfection becomes shame. Suddenly, every wrinkle feels like loss, every flaw feels like weakness, every change feels like a threat, and the body, something once simply lived in, becomes a battlefield. This is why you can compliment someone and they respond, "I don't see myself that way, I don't feel that way." Because the problem is not on their face, it is in their reference point. As long as the self is the center, the self will always be unstable. The crisis is psychological, yes, but before it is psychological, it is spiritual. A disordered center creates a disordered life. Here is why mainstream advice doesn't work. Just love yourself, be confident, unfollow negative accounts, practice self-acceptance, embrace your flaws. These sound comforting, and indeed they are, but they can't cure the problem because they reinforce the exact worldview that created the crisis. You cannot heal self-obsession by focusing more on the self. You cannot treat insecurity by staring harder in the mirror. You cannot cure identity anxiety by building identity out of thin air. The solution cannot come from the self because the self is the thing fracturing. Real freedom starts here. Christ must become the center. It's the cure no one wants, yet the only cure that exists. In Christianity, worth is given, not achieved. Identity is rooted, not constructed. Love is received, not earned. Purpose is outside the self, not made inside it. When Christ becomes the center, your face stops telling you who you are. Your body stops being your project. Your beauty stops being your currency. Your identity stops being a performance. You are finally free from the exhausting job of being your own source of meaning. This is why no amount of treatments can silence the ache. They treat the superficial symptoms, not the center. Only a new center can heal a disordered life. Many secular voices describe the crisis with brilliant clarity. They see the symptoms, they name the patterns, but they can't offer a cure. And it's not because they lack insight, it's because the cure contradicts their worldview. Here is why. Number one, secularism has removed spiritual language. There are no categories for sin, idolatry, disordered loves, misplaced worship, or the spiritual nature of self obsession. So everything becomes anxiety, trauma, or dysfunction. Number two, the self is treated as sacred. You cannot tell people the problem is self worship when your worldview teaches that the self is the highest authority. Number three, it medicalizes what is moral and spiritual. Vanity becomes body dysmorphia. Idolatry becomes identity distress. Self absorption becomes appearance anxiety. Number four, it critiques outcomes but protects the philosophy producing them. We hate perfectionism. We hate comparison. We hate insecurity. But keep the self at the center. It is impossible. Number five, its solutions are just polished versions of the problem. Self-love, self-expression, self-creation, self-acceptance. All the solutions circle back to the self, the very thing causing the crisis. This is the ultimate contradiction. Secular culture can see the symptoms, but it cannot name the disease because the disease is the worldview it is built on. The beauty crisis isn't about filler. It's not about social media or about trends. It's about a generation crushed under the weight of being their own gods, trying to preserve themselves by perfecting themselves, trying to earn worth through appearance, trying to outrun time, age, and mortality with a syringe. No dermatologist can solve that. No influencer can solve that. No self-love mantra can solve that. Because the issue is not the face. It is the center. When Christ becomes the center, the pressure breaks. The tyranny of beauty loses its grip. The self stops devouring itself and the body becomes a home again, not a project to be endlessly edited. That is the cure no secular commentator can give. And that is the cure people are aching for.